The call came while I was making dinner. Her flight had just landed, and the sound of the airport was a distant roar on the other end of the line. I could hear the exhaustion in her voice, but there was something else underneath it. Something tight and brittle. She said my name, then paused for a second. Too long, did I think? She started, her voice dropping to a near whisper. I think I need some time. The knife I was holding stopped halfway, through an onion. The only sound in the kitchen was the hum of the refrigerator. I pictured her standing by the baggage claim, phone pressed to her ear. I took a breath. And then I said it. Okay, take it. Silence. Not a relieved silence. A shocked, hollow silence. Then her voice, shaky and small. What do you mean, okay? That's when I knew. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. Our life before her trip wasn't a movie, but it was ours. It was comfortable. We had a rhythm. Morning coffee, a quick kiss goodbye, the "how was your day" texts that were really just code for "I'm thinking of you." We'd been married for 7 years, and they were good years. Easy years. We'd built this life in our small house, with its slightly crooked porch and the garden I could never quite keep alive. It was in the way she'd steal my hoodies, the way I knew exactly how she liked her tea. It was 1,000 tiny, unspoken truths that added up to a feeling of home. This work conference was a big deal for her. A week in a city a few states away. A chance to network, to get a promotion she'd been chasing for a year. I was her biggest cheerleader. I helped her pack, made sure she had everything, and drove her to the airport in the pre-dawn darkness. I'll miss you, she'd said, leaning over to kiss me before she got out of the car. It's just a week. I smiled. Go. Be brilliant. Our calls during that week were fine. A little short, maybe. She always seemed to be rushing off somewhere, to a dinner or a seminar. I chalked it up to a busy schedule. I wanted this for her. I trusted her. I never imagined that trust was a glass about to be shattered on the floor. Her request for time turned into her staying at her sister's house, just across town. She said she needed to clear her head after the intense week. It felt like a flimsy excuse, a paper-thin wall she was putting up between us. But I remember my promise. Take it. So I just said, let me know if you need anything. The first night, the silence in our house was deafening. I slept on her side of the bed, just to feel closer to her. The next day, I started unpacking her suitcase for her. I thought it would be a nice gesture. I unzipped the front pocket, and my fingers brushed against a small, rectangular card. It was a ticket stub. Not for a conference seminar, but for a ferry. A ferry to a small island off the coast, a tourist spot known for its romantic lighthouses. An island that was a 2-hour drive in the opposite direction of her conference hotel. I just stood there, in the middle of our quiet bedroom, holding this piece of paper. IT was a tiny detail. It could have meant anything. A last-minute excursion with colleagues, maybe. A story she just forgot to tell me. But my gut twisted. It felt like the first loose thread on a sweater. If I pulled it, would everything unravel? I didn't pull it. Not yet. I put the ticket back in her suitcase, zipped it up, and pushed it into the closet. I tried to forget. But that night, I couldn't sleep. The image of the ferry ticket was burned into my mind. Who do you take to a romantic island? The spiral started slowly. I didn't mean to snoop. I've never been that guy. But the unanswered questions were eating me alive. I opened her laptop, which she'd left on the kitchen counter. Her email was still logged in. My heart was hammering against my ribs. I felt disgusting, like a trespasser in my own life. I found the hotel confirmation. The one for the conference. The dates were right. Everything looked normal. For a second, I felt a wave of relief. I was just being paranoid, but then I saw the other folder. Titled Personal. Inside was another hotel booking. For a boutique inn on that same island from the ferry ticket. It was for 2 nights, right in the middle of her conference week. The booking was for 2 adults, and my breath caught in my throat. I felt cold. A deep, creeping cold that had nothing to do with the temperature in the house. This wasn't a forgotten story. This was a secret. A whole secret life lived in the span of a few days, a few nights later. She called. Her voice was bright, almost forced. She asked how I was. I told her I was fine. Asked about her sister. The small talk felt like a betrayal. Every calm word out of my mouth was a lie. I wanted to scream down the phone, to ask her about the island, about the hotel for two. Instead, I just said, "I miss you." "I miss you, too," she said, but her voice cracked on the last word. The near catches were the worst. One afternoon, a credit card statement came in the mail. It was ours. I opened it, my hands shaking. There it was. A charge from a restaurant on the island. A fancy place, the kind you go to for an anniversary. The charge was for an amount that was definitely not for one person. As I was staring at it, my phone buzzed. A text from her. Asterisk, thinking of you. Hope you're having a good day. XO. Asterisk, I felt like I was going to be sick. I was living in two worlds. The one where my wife loved me and sent me sweet texts, and the one where she was a stranger who took secret trips to romantic islands. The conflict was tearing me apart. I'd walk through our house, touching the frames of our wedding photos, and feel nothing but a hollow ache. Who is she? And who was I becoming? The man who hunted for clues in the dark, who felt a sick thrill every time he found another piece of the ugly truth. I knew I couldn't live in this state of quiet torment forever. The truth had a weight, and I was buckling under it. I couldn't confront her with a list of receipts and bookings. That would just be a fight about evidence. I didn't want to win an argument. I wanted to know if my marriage was real. I made a decision. I wasn't going to ask her for the truth. I was going to make it impossible for her to keep lying. That evening, I went into our bedroom. I pulled my old duffel bag from the top of the closet. The sound of the zipper was loud in the silent house. I didn't pack much. A few shirts, a toothbrush. Just enough. Then I got in my car and drove to her sister's house. The lights were on inside. I could see their shadows moving behind the curtains. For a moment, I almost turned around. But the thought of another night alone with my poisonous secrets pushed me forward. I walked up the driveway and knocked on the door. She answered. The surprise on her face was quickly replaced by a flicker of fear. She was wearing my gray sweatshirt. It felt like a punch to the gut. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her hand clutching the door frame. I didn't answer her question. I just held up the duffel bag so she could see it. "You said you needed time," I said, my voice steady and low. "I've decided I need some, too." Her face crumbled. All the composure, all the carefully constructed calm she'd been projecting for days, it just disintegrated. The panic I'd heard on the phone when I first said, "Okay," was now a tidal wave in her eyes. "What? What are you talking about? Where are you going?" The questions tumbled out, desperate and frantic. She reached for my arm, but I stepped back. "It's not fair," she whispered, her eyes filling with tears. "You can't just do this." The irony was so thick I could barely breathe. She started talking, a frantic confession unspooling in the cold night air on her sister's porch. It was a coworker. It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. It just happened. All the lines I knew were coming, that I didn't yell. I didn't accuse her. I just stood there and let her words wash over me. I was strangely calm, detached. My silence was a mirror, and in it, she was finally seeing the wreckage she had caused, seeing the person she had become. Her sister came to the door, took one look at the scene, and pulled my wife back inside. I turned around and walked back to my car without another word. As I drove away, I saw her face in my rearview mirror, a pale ghost in the window. The fear wasn't just hers anymore. I was terrified. I had just set our life on fire, and I had no idea what, if anything, would be left when the smoke cleared. The next few days were a blur. I stayed in a cheap motel an hour out of town. The room smelled like stale smoke and regret. My phone was a constant barrage of texts and missed calls from her sister, from our friends, all asking what was going on, telling me to come home, to talk to her. I ignored them all, that I needed the silence. I needed to untangle my own thoughts from the mess of her lies. I wasn't just hurt. I was angry. But underneath the anger was a deep, profound sadness. The woman I had built my world around had lied to my face, and had only started telling the truth when she was afraid of losing me. Was that love? After 3 days, I drove home. The house was cold and still. She was sitting on the couch in the dark, and she looked up when I walked in. She looked smaller. Fragile. Like she hadn't slept or eaten since I left. We didn't fight. There was nothing left to fight about. Quietly, she told me everything. The full story. The flirty lunches with her coworker. The way his attention made her feel exciting and new. The decision on the trip to take a couple of days. She cried, but these weren't the panicked tears from the porch. They were the quiet, exhausted tears of someone who knows they have broken something unbreakable. I listened. And when she was done, I looked at the woman I married, and I felt like I was seeing a complete stranger. I don't know if we can fix this, I said. It was the most honest thing I'd said in weeks. The words hung in the air between us, a lasting scar. She panicked when I gave her the time she asked for. Because the one thing she never expected, the one thing she never planned for, was for me to use that time for myself.